ARPG, 75k crits, dude! Whoa! So yeah, this is a Tempest Strike Stormcrow build, and it's the first build I've ever really made myself, and it's actually super interesting. So if I summon my Stormcrows right now, you can see I have a bunch of them. There's 6 Stormcrows, and I'll tell you exactly how I got 6. First of all, you need to be a Beastmaster. You can't see the passive right now, but you get +1 from Beastmastery. You get a +1 from the Beastmastery tree itself, so that's 2, plus the 2 you already have at the beginning. Then you have a unique item called Arthur's Legacy, which gives you another maximum companion. Pretty important on this item, by the way. You want to buy this or get this with +2 all minion skills, preferably. You can also get it with just +1. Obviously, the more levels, the better. And then you can also kind of cheat another crow by just having a wolf companion passive. I'll just move my camera real quick, which is right here. This blue thing here is another extra companion, so you can get up to 6 crows, which is pretty nice. And obviously each crow does its own damage most of the time, so it's pretty fucking crazy how much damage 6 crows can actually do. So how does this actually work? There's a new ability, or a reworked ability, which is called Tempest Strike right here. They reworked this basically entirely, and they have a node right here that says well, actually, we should probably explain the Gladiator node first. So this is a Gladiator of Lagon. Every time you hit, you get a stack, and then every time one of the Tempest, which is an RNG effect of the Tempest Strike, so whenever you hit, you have a chance to proc a Tempest. It also has a chance to give you a stack, but you can also only get 3 stacks per second, so overstacking attack speed doesn't make any sense. Anyways, this one gives you shared spell damage. What does that mean? Well, exactly what you think it does. You can get a maximum of 24 stacks of this. Not very realistic. Most of the time you will be probably between, I don't know, 15 and 20 if you're really trying. But yeah, in maps maybe you have like 10 to 15 most of the time. Which each of those stacks gives you 4 spell damage. That's not only for yourself, but that's also for your minion. That's pretty important. Because this node right here, Scheme of the Architect, doubles this effect if you have at least 50 intelligence. Now, you might be asking yourself, how the fuck do you get 50 intelligence on a Primalist? That's basically impossible. You might... If you think that, you would be right. You would be right. It's terrible, okay? That makes no sense. Intelligence doesn't even really do anything, because you probably won't even play with Ward. But I'll explain how that works. First of all, I'll explain this tree real quick. We will basically just be speccing into the Thunder Tempest here, which has mainly only mana problem issues. We would be going into the other ones as well, but you don't have that many skill points and you don't have that much mana. That's why we're also getting Calm Seas down here for -4 mana cost. We will do that later though. Okay, so while you're leveling, I know this is all over the place. Maybe you can tell I've never made a build guide before, like this at least in an ARPG, but this bottom part where you're basically locking yourself out of other Tempests, you don't want to go there while leveling. It doesn't make any sense, because it's, you know, you have enough to sustain it usually. It's not that big of a deal because you're not casting the Stormcrow ability all the time. So it's fine if you just remove this early on. But early on you definitely want Ancestral Swiftness, because this gives you attack speed and mana cost basically with no downsides. So this is like a must-have node during leveling. Makes it way easier to sustain your mana, but in general your mana cost will always be kind of a problem. And then we have Leap Slam, just basically a support ability that gives me Frenzy, heals me a little bit, gives me some more global spell damage, which is quite nice, and an immunity. Warcry also has an immunity, gives me Giga attack speed here, and gives me crit chance from me and my minions, which is also really nice. And also it procs off crits. And then you also have this part here which pulls the mobs instead of pushing them away, which makes it a lot easier. If you have a lot of luxury, you can also go into this part and get some more haste and stuff, but it's not really that necessary. And on wolves, this is also something I would only really do later on. As I said earlier, just get the +1 max companion on the wolves as a passive. You don't really need another ability. If you do want another ability here, I would recommend Frenzy Totem. But I think this is a little bit better to have one more crow personally, especially with the crow node up here that gives you more damage per crow. So I think having wolf is better than Frenzy Totem, but both works, I think. And essentially what you're doing is you're gonna hit a target, and you can see down here that there's these stacks that accumulate. These are the gladiator stacks. This is everything you're gonna play around, right? This is how that works. So you're basically stacking this, and in combination with a lot of other things like the aspect of the links from the Beastmastery tree, you're basically stacking a lot of damage on the crows, basically permanently buffing them, and everything basically just plays into that. And Tempest Strike itself also still does a decent amount of damage. So if we were to attack with the crows, we can see this is not even a very min-max character, and on this target dummy I can pull insane numbers. That's obviously not what's gonna look like in a real situation, but yeah, the potential for the damage is insanely high, okay? Let's talk about actually how this even works, because you want 50 intelligence. How do you get 50 intelligence? This Cleaver Solution is the solution. Wow, what a name. You get 9 strength from this, and your intelligence is equal to your strength. Important. Also, the more damage to bleeding enemies is pretty important. If you can get that higher, the better, obviously, because you can obviously bleed your opponent just for more damage with Tempest Strike. I don't think that applies to your Storm Crows though. And you also have +1 to all skills, so this is overall kind of just a stat stick that just gives you stuff, right? Dual wielding is not optimal because you obviously take more damage, and you also don't get a whole lot of other things from this, but it's just so crazy. So what you want to do is basically stack strength, or specifically you want 50 strength, right? Any more than that isn't really necessary. It's not bad though. How do you get 50 strength? That's also a good point. Now, that's basically where the skill tree comes in. You actually have a lot of options in the skill tree when it comes to strength. So this is really important here in the Primalist one. 8 strength for free, and health regen doesn't really matter, but we want the strength. You obviously need the dual wield node to make this actually work. And this one is also quite nice because of a Stormcrow node that is called Fulminating Caw. You increases to lightning damage also applied to your Stormcrows, but it reduced effectiveness. Well, it's not reduced anymore if you max it out. And this also applies to elemental damage. I couldn't confirm if this works for spell damage, but I know that it's definitely for lightning damage and elemental damage increase. At least that's what it says. So you definitely want to stack as much lightning and elemental damage as possible, including shared, because it double dips. So something like this one here, increase lightning damage for yourself and increase minion lightning damage. Pretty nice. Okay, that's pretty nice. Scales very well with your entire build. And since you're also just really doing a whole lot of damage with the Thunderous part, or the Storm part of your Tempest Strike, also scales your other ability at the meantime, right? So you can still do damage with Tempest Strike, although it's not your main ability. So it's quite nice. And then we keep going. I would recommend first going into Beastmaster, because some of the nodes are important, especially this one in the end. But here's also another 8 strength plus minus damage taken from nearby enemies. Insane node. Boarheart, also defensive. This one we just take because there's not really much else we can take, to be honest. This one for cast speed, so they can actually attack faster. Another 5 strength here, and more aspect of the boar. Also really nice. Then we get the full links tree here that I'm maxing out at the moment. Insane for crit chance, because we also get crazy base crit chance from the crows. So just having a lot of increased crit chance basically gives you 100% crit uptime on the crows, which is wild, right? And on top of that, this gives a crazy amount of multi as well, and leech. Perfect, right? And this one is obviously super important. Another maximum companion. So now I will actually just jump. Actually, I'll show you my gear real quick, and then we'll jump into the little tree last epoch tools thing, just to show you what it should look like. But right now I have the Arthur's Legacy. I have the Cleaver Solution. I don't know where my mouse is. Why I can't even. Oh, here we go. Then we have a turquoise amulet. Turquoise on all accessories is good, obviously. With some crit chance. The crit chance is nice, not necessary, and the shred armor chance on this you don't need. Like the moment you get up here into Feathered Storm, you will never need that again probably because you have so much strength. But anyways, this is important. On the chest, I have Summon Stormcrows and Tempest Strike. Notes and obviously health and a little bit of strength. Scepters like this. There's also another one called Skeletal Scepter, I think. It's a slightly better version of this, but also really nice. Another turquoise ring. A belt with lightning damage. Rings with lightning damage and health and stuff. Like, this is not really super important. I think you could get some other stuff here like minion damage. But these two are really nice for strength. And then I have this one. This is just me leveling up. I'm currently not even super high level. I'm level 71. So let's jump over to the last Epoch Tools one, which is this. I'm going to link this in the description, obviously. And I'll just go through this one more time real quick, what it should probably look like, because I do have some mana issues. So, for example, here, this belt, I put some mana regen on there, or these gloves that have some inherent mana regen. And just basically this entire thing is completely fleshed out with all of the passives that you want. By the way, if you're leveling with this build, I would recommend doing this first. Even the 3 points here, it really helps with the Tempest Strike leveling. And then eventually, like immediately after maxing out this, or at least going up until Nature's Embrace or Critical Bite. And then afterwards, Druid probably for the strength here. And then at the very end, Shaman. I basically have no points in Shaman on my character. Also pretty important, right? So all of this is in the description below. If you have any questions, let me know. This is still kind of in the early stages of development, this build. I basically just tried it out and leveled to 71, and it works pretty well so far. The only downside is I wouldn't recommend it for hardcore. Because, well, the way I set it up anyways, I'm sure you can make this work in hardcore somehow. But I haven't thought about that. So this is a relatively squishy build. That being said, I barely die or ever die in monoliths. I'm pushing pretty high ones already. I'm in the last 3 already. So I barely die even with my terrible setup. Like I have like terrible resistances of 0 fizz resist. Like it's a miracle that I barely die. But I barely die. I don't know how that works, but it does. So it's honestly pretty crazy how much this can scale, and I'm very curious where this goes. So depending on how this video does, I guess maybe I'll make a follow-up of how, like, when this character is completely min-max to the brim and how much damage this can pull out. But it's pretty fun, and it's pretty nice. And also, one more last tip. You want to use your Crow Storm a lot later on because of the Cry of the Lynx tree. So that's when the real mana problems start, and that's also when I started to put points here into the lower part, as I said earlier, because I needed the mana. I don't want to go here, but I need the mana to sustain anything. So that's kind of the only problem. If you have even crazier mana issues, you could always go up here as well, but I think that's not necessary. I think this is okay. I will probably invest a little bit more into mana regen from here on out, and I should be fine. But yeah, that's the first iteration of the multiple Stormcrow plus Tempest Strike setup. The damage is wild. I hope it's gonna get even crazier. So yeah, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one. Also, I will do the 100-hour last Epoch review, you know, when I have the 100 hours. I think I'm like 20 hours in, maybe a little bit more. Obviously, I played the game before, but on launch, I wanted to have like a full 100 hours to give you guys a proper review, and that's gonna come, well, after that. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. Have a good one. Peace. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.